Namaste everyone. Awakening the genius within. One mother's journey to raise
Meaningful and capable child. A child is a born genius, but how that genius blooms depends largely upon the environment that we create. Today, I'm talking to a mother who is not just nurturing her own child's potential, but also empowering other mothers to do the same. Let's dive into what it really takes to raise a focused, aware, and capable child from day one. So, so let me introduce you all to Dr. Nalini Shankar, who is the founder of Holistic Parenting Universe, honorary doctorate in early childhood education, and a leading whole brain acceleration coach for parents of children aged 0 to 6 years. A passionate mother turned mentor. She has empowered over 8,000 parents across the globe to unlock their child's genius using neuroscience, whole brain learning, and holistic parenting techniques. Her signature frameworks have helped children improve speech, memory, focus, and emotional regulation without pressure or screens. Dr. Nalini believes that every child is a born genius and that it's the parents' awareness that makes the difference. I welcome you, Dr. Nalini Shankar, to our first podcast episode, and I'm very, very honored and grateful for you for accepting this. Thank you so much and welcome.
You so much for such a warm welcome, Vidya. So I'm so glad and humbled to be here. I'm so glad to connect with the people through you, and it's really nice to have to being here.
Thank you so much. So, without any delay, let's begin. Thank you so much. So, we have divided this podcast into different parts. Where the first part will be we'll be discussing about your journey as a conscious mother. So, Nalini, can you walk us through your journey from being a mother to becoming a mentor for other mothers?
Sure. So, when my daughter was born, I was thinking that motherhood comes very naturally to all of us. We have been seeing and growing up, knowing that this is what motherhood is all like, and the sacrifices that comes along with it, and the patience levels that I always felt that once I give birth to my child, I'm going to. My daughter was born in 20, the pandemic babies. Okay, so right after 7 days after she was born, it was a complete lockdown, and I was also stuck here with a very small baby, not knowing what to do, and the entire world was also locked down. So I used to wonder, like, what this small baby is trying to communicate, because the child cannot speak, right? So I used to wonder, like, what is this baby is trying to communicate? What if she has some words? What she will say, and all of those. So that curiosity actually led me to explore more about child psychology and what happens and all of that. And I was very fascinated to know about the early years brain development, and that is when I really dive deep into all of these child psychology, neuroscience, and everything. Earlier, I was working as a software engineer. I was on maternity leave at that time. So I really thought, like, okay, I am right now here, and also as a mother, when I'm looking out about my child's potential during the early years, it was not just fascinating, it was also making me feel more responsible. Right now, I know this information. Once I see it, I cannot unsee it. So I was like, how am I going to make use of this beautiful period of time? So that was there in my mind. It's just got stuck, and I decided, okay, I'm going to make sure that I give my best to my child during these critical years, because 0 to 6 years is when your child is completely under your nest, in your nest. After 6 years, they will have a lot of influences from the outside world, and of course, as they grow up, they have more influence from the outer world. So 0 to 6 years is actually the primary years where the parent have the control, parent have the influence, too much of influence to their child. So I really wanted to make sure that I am giving my best to my daughter by being the best, influencing her in the right way. So that's how it all started. I started to see what is the best I can give, what is the brain development things I can help her, what are the values that I can install in her, what is the intuition, all of those things just started. What started as a personal journey has been becoming, when my daughter was around 1 year, when I went out, the pandemic was slowly being lifted and we were all able to go out to parks and everywhere. So that is when I actually saw that many parents were actually struggling with kids like 3 years, 4 years, not able to talk, not able to communicate properly. And there were a lot of children who were addicted to screens. And I was like, God, and also I was seeing the parents being so helpless on what to do. So that is when I realized whatever I'm doing with my daughter seems something completely different from what I'm seeing in the real world with other parents. So I thought whatever I'm doing with my daughter, if at least 10%, 20%, if these parents are aware of, and if they start to do this with their kids, they are going to see great shifts. So that time I was just in Instagram but not posting anything. It was 21, 20, end of 20 like that. And I just started to share whatever I'm doing with my daughter in my Instagram, and I created my YouTube channel and started to post it. It's also another reason because I was learning so much from my daughter that I was not able to remember everything. So I thought, okay, I want to document it somewhere. Whenever we learn something during the exams and all, we go and share it with our friends so that we learn it better. No, just like that, I started my YouTube channel. Whatever I'm learning, I'm doing with my daughter, I just come and talk in front of the camera, just like a revision, and also so that I don't get overwhelmed. But parents started to notice. They started to implement what I'm sharing with them, and they were also seeing some shifts in their parenting perspectives and also in their children. So I started to get a lot of requests asking for, Nalini ma'am, can you do some workshops, because we cannot wait until you release the next video. So can you do workshops? And I was like, I was actually working as a software engineer at that time. And I was like, okay, let me do in the weekend. So I do every weekend I started taking workshops. It used to be like a 3 hours or 4 hours. I teach them everything. And then I realized that, people were not able to take consistent action just with the knowledge. And I was also seeing from all the parents who have been taking consistent action, we were seeing huge shifts in their child's memory getting increased, in their child's reversal of screen addiction. Many kids were able to, speak with clarity, and a lot of children were being prevented from having a speech delay. I have a lot of success stories where the parents, especially in the 1.5, 2 years, they were not able to speak in sentence, in words. The words were not coming, but after they started doing the whole brain acceleration, their children started to speak. So all of these results were very stunning. Like, you doing it with your child is different from you doing with many people and seeing that it's actually working. So I felt like this is like my calling. I really want to share this to the world as much as possible. So I decided to quit my job and happily hustling as an educator, happily doing it for, it's been 5 years of wonderful journey and impacting so many kids and so many parents out there. And it's a very beautiful journey that has come through. And right now we have a lot of coaches also who have been practicing my framework, and they have seen the impact in their kids. They want to take this to others. And we have a lot of certified coaches also coming from Holistic Parenting Universe. That's the beautiful journey that we have been, and I'm sure that it's going to be just expanded as we grow.
Definitely. And I'm really very proud of your journey, and I'm also very proud to say that I'm one of your students as well.
I'm so grateful that I was able to impact your child also. So it's a beautiful space that every mother,
I can see that difference between him and all the other kids. So I'm very grateful for that. So coming to my second question, what is that first moment of realization that a child is capable of doing so much? Because you as a software engineer to a mother, and then realizing at that right time that yes, the child is capable of much more than we usually believe. When did that actually strike to your mind, and how did you actually come across whole brain acceleration and all the techniques that you have implemented to your kids and others?
Lovely question, actually. So basically what happened is that, and I told you, right? So when I become a mother, I thought everything is going to come naturally to me, and it's going to be like everything is going to be taken care of. That is what I was assuming to be, because I have an elder sister. She has 2 children. Both these children were raised by my mother. So I was like, okay, everybody knows everything about parenting. I have a lot of support around me. So it's going to be super easy fun. I was thinking that pregnancy part was the most difficult part. So I was waiting when I'm going to deliver my child so I can just go and relax. That is what I was thinking. But right after my daughter was born, I went on an emergency C-section. So I was not able to breastfeed my daughter. It was very difficult. I was not aware of any of these things, right? So the postpartum classes and none of these things were there in 20 itself. I feel like old aged right now. So 20 pregnancy classes, none of these things were there. So in my hospital, when I was after my cesarean, I was being bombarded with all my relatives, my mom, everybody was saying that it is my fault that I'm not able to, breastfeed my daughter. And everybody put the blame on me. And being a new mother, just now gave birth to a very small baby, I was like, oh my God, I'm failing as a mother. That was the first thing that I was made to feel. For the next 6-7 hours, I was not sure like what I have to do because I'm trying, but it's not coming. And my child was crying so hard, and nobody wants to see a little baby crying. And everybody was pointing me. You did not do this. That's why you did not do that. That's why you should have done this. You should have done that. So many things were there, and I started to believe that completely because it was my own mother who was saying it. So of course I'll believe it completely until my lactation professional in the hospital. Thank God, she's like a God sent angel. She came, and all these people were just complaining. She did not do this. She did not do that. That's why it's not. And the moment she entered, she said, "This is very common in everybody. Nobody did." She was just pointing out my mom and my other people in the rooms, asking like, "Were you able to breastfeed right after your child was born?" Like that. She was very confidently asking, and she sent all of them out, and she gave me a lot of information that I required at that moment of time. She said, "This is what it is. This is normal," and if all of those things. That was the moment it was like opened up. I felt like, okay, so this is not my fault, so I can try. And the next day, all these days in the hospitals, I was feeling like everything is being blamed. I'm getting into the blame zone every day. So after I reached back to my house, the house is the same, but it looked completely different. My mother is the same, but she looked completely different. My father is the same, but he looked different. My husband is the same, but everybody around me was different, even though all of them are same. So there was something that is different in the world after you become a mother, no? And it was just, 7 days or something, my daughter born, like after, like 5th day or 6th day. I was trying to breastfeed my daughter. I'm trying so hard. And my daughter is crying so hard out of hunger or whatever. She was crying so hard that my mom and dad couldn't hold their patients in the hall. I'm trying to establish, because my lactation consultant told, every time you try for some time and then you give the formula milk if you want. So likewise, so I'm trying, but my mom and dad couldn't hear my daughter crying. So my mom immediately came inside, rushed inside, and she was like, "Why are you torturing the child? I can give her the formula milk." And she was actually prepared it by the time I was establishing, trying and all that. She already made that ready, and she was like scolded me and took the child from me and went to the living room and started to try to give. And I was like helpless, totally helpless. And I was feeling like, oh my God, I don't know. I'm trying so hard, but why it's so difficult? And then, but I was seeing that I was not hearing any sound from my daughter. Till that point, she was crying so hard. When my mom took her to the living room, she was not even crying. She was so silent. And then when my mom tried to feed her the formula milk, she cried a lot again. She was not accepting to drink it. Usually she used to drink. Okay, I'll try this, and she'll cry. My mom will take her away and she will feed her the formula milk. She will do it. Okay, this time my mom scolded me and took her away. And she was refusing to drink the milk. She was crying so hard. And my mom couldn't understand why she's crying. And she came back and, okay, you leave it. Maybe she's crying, not crying for hunger. That's how she understood. And she gave her back to me. And when I hold her again, she was chup silent. And that moment, there was an eye contact between me and my daughter. That was like, everybody in this, people around me know me for so many years, but none of these people were able to understand what I'm going through. But this 5 days old baby was able to understand what I'm going through. And that moment of eye contact, that is when I really fell in love with my daughter. I felt like this child has come to this world trusting me and nobody else. So I have to first trust in myself. and I have to make sure that I am giving my best to my daughter, no matter whatever happens around me, whatever other people say. I'm not going to listen. I'm going to make everything as an informed decision. So that's when I decided this is what, because that was truly very difficult to explain it, because my mom knows me for 28 years. She cannot understand what I'm going through. My husband was there, even though he understands, he do not know what to do. But my baby who's just born 5 days doesn't know the language, doesn't know to speak. But that one eye contact told me that I understand you, Amma. I am standing with you. Even though she was so hungry, she did not drink the milk, and she was trying to, again trying to, I tried the breastfeeding, and she was patiently trying to drink. And after that, every time we try, she never cries. She'll cooperate with me for the breastfeeding. It was so miraculous for me to even think that this little baby can understand all of these things. I was shocked. So that was actually showing me that these little babies can understand anything and everything. Even after, only because of that, I never stopped from, sharing anything with her, thinking that she's very small. She may not understand this. All of these things, I never agree. Many parents used to say, how are you teaching all of these? How are you saying all of these things? Anyway, the child is not going to understand. I never agree with it. If my child could understood that difficult, complex emotions at that point of time, my child can understand anything, like even the unspoken words, the everything. Every baby can understand everything, right? So it's just that so that is when I started, that is when I decided, because I saw it, if this is something that this baby can do, there is nothing else that the child cannot do, right? Anything that the child can do. So after I started to explore about the neuroscience, about the brain development, I started to do at time, the right brain education. None of these things were very much familiar. There was nothing that you can get the information just like that, right? So, but I was hearing something called as flashcards. Sorry?
Yes, because education for us, since our parenting, for us, it is Nalini Zeno. But I was just imagining the same thing. What Nalini Zeno would have searched for during her
Looking
education?
at the earlier brain, since I knew the brain development was so rapid, I was just looking for what is that I can do with my child. So I came across something called as flashcards. I was feeling like, okay, let me get some flashcards and I'll try to show. And that time it was COVID, right? So Amazon and everything, nothing worked. So even in Amazon, you don't see many flashcards like how we do in whole brain acceleration right now. There used to be small cards, and I went to a temple in that store. There was one flashcards packet that was where it was small cards. So I just brought it home. The colors, actually, the red color, green color, like that. So I was just showing my child red, green, blue, yellow. The first time, she was 5 months at that time. Okay, she was looking at the cards very keenly, curiously. And the second time I came and showed, the next day, she was looking at it for the first half, and then she turned back. The third day when I was showing her again, the moment I took it, she turned back. So I was thinking, why she's not interested? Why she's not, doesn't? Because first day she was so interested to see. Why she's not looking at it? Okay, let me try if she knows something or something. So I just asked her which one is red, which one is green, and every single time she was right. And initially I was thinking it may be a coincidence that she is able to, she will kick it, or she will look at it, or she will try to touch it. So that's how she responds. So I thought it may be a coincidence, but after a 3, 4, 5th time, I could clearly see that this is not a coincidence. There is something beyond this. So that is when I went and searched and got to know about how children have the photographic memory, and got to understand a lot of books I've read. That time only books were there. I've read a lot of books, and then many of the other activities also. Some of them are for older children, like if your child is 8 years, 7 years, like that. But I tweaked it for my 6-month-old daughter, and every time we do that, it's so fascinating to see how the child is able to show it all right. So it was so much fun. Also, she also loved it. I also loved it. So it was a way of how I bond with my daughter, I would say. I as I told you, motherhood, the natural motherhood that I was thinking was never been so natural to me. So even the bonding felt so strange. I cannot simply stare my child for a long longer period of time and feel like, okay, I am the mother, she is the child, we feel so loved. No, that is not me. The entire day I have to be doing something for myself so that I can feel connected with her. Even now, it's not like you being here, I being here, I feel the connection. No, I'll have to sit with her and do some drawing with her. So I feel more connected. So I need something like that. So I think that is where this whole thing fit in. So that's how it all started. And since I was also a working mother, and all of these information was so scattered, I put them all together in a very practical way of implementing it. My shift timing at that time starts from 12 o'clock. So
Okay.
she used to wake 9 or something like that. I'll also wake up along with her, get ready, have our breakfast, and for the next half an hour, we'll have a lot of fun, flashcards, games, photographic memory, all of these things. And then I'll go and sit with my computer, the office work. And the entire day, she'll be, occupied with books, some things around the house, I'll just give her, and she used to be occupied with it. Even as a very small baby, that is how it all just started. So much, fun. That's it.
Very nice. So, how does your child's day look like? You can say, like, now, how does it look like? Is there any specific routine or habits that you follow? Or what are the activities that makes her keep focused and balanced? And how are you balancing your work life as well? So,
Lovely.
how-
This is again the most asked question. Every time I talk with anybody, these questions. There's never been a conversation without this. So I'll be very honest, when it comes to routines and rhythms, it's never been the same. The thing is that people used to ask me, Nali, post your day in my life. I used to be like, every day is different for me. Should I can say right now, my routines are little bit uniform on a daily basis. Like my daughter is now 5 years old and she goes to school. So when she goes to school,
yeah.
things to do and all that. But till she was 3.5, there was no routine as such that will be like a regularly that will be doing only this at this time, etc. So I called it as a rhythm instead of calling it as a routine. So we have a rhythm that we follow throughout the day. We can say like before 3 years, after 3 years also. So before 3 years, the rhythm used to be like we wake. There is no fixed time we wake up and all that. The child sleeps well as much as she wants, and she will wake up. And the rhythms always have some boundaries associated to it. So it is not like taken for granted, definitely. So it's like when she wakes up, first thing we take her to the restroom. So we'll do all the morning routine right there in the restroom. We will make her bath, brush, and bathroom, and all of these potty, everything done. And then breakfast. After breakfast, we used to have the whole brain acceleration session. That has been till 3.5 years. It used to be the same way. After breakfast, we do our flashcard sessions and everything, and then we'll be doing so depending on her stage of development. I used to give her some activities. I'm not a DIY person. I don't spend so much of time in creating stuff and all. I'm not good at it. So whatever things are available at the home, I'll just give it, because 0 to 3 years is a stage for the child to explore. That's a very beautiful stage where the parents don't have to put in so much of effort. They have to just let the child explore with some, of course, with the supervision. That's it. So it's a beautiful time to see what is your child, the way of how they are looking. So it's more about you observing the child during that stage. So I just observe, and then I'll be doing my work also. In the afternoon she will sleep, take her nap, and then evening is our park time. We'll go 2-3 hours and then we'll come back. We have we used to have our books scattered around our house. Wherever there is in a hall, there'll be 2 baskets with 2 books. Somewhere kitchen she will have, bedroom she will have, like that. So it is what, because we are completely screen free, we do not have a need for screen time. So we used to be, because she loves to be engaged with books, so we never had the need for a screen time as such, even though I work 100% with my phone, right? So that used to be a little bit difficult when the child is always seeing the mother being at a phone and not asking for it. So it is all being communicated with clarity that this is what Amma will work. And of course, I strongly believe in the connection time rather than anything else. So we have this connection time during the whole brain acceleration session. So she feels more connected. And then the rest of the day, it's like I do my work, she does her work, and we both are being together. That's how it is. Till 3 years, she needs a lot of, the independent play is kind of a different terminology. People used to think that when we say that independent play, it's all about the child playing by themselves. It's definitely not like that. We be there, we guide them whenever they need it, whenever they ask for it. I'll be there to guide her all the time. So after she turned 3.5, she started to drop her afternoon nap. So that is when it was little bit difficult, because during that nap time is what my me time. Like I work on my reels, I post content and all that. Now that has been taken up, and also, it's like a recharge, just like how your battery dies without recharge. Similarly, the time she started to skip her nap, I was feeling like I was feeling more restless because that recharge was not there. So I used to try to put her to sleep, and then I also see that she's not really feeling sleepy, and it also delays her bedtime. And so I used to be like, okay, this is your independent playtime. You do whatever is possible for you, that you don't need my involvement. You take up whatever that you want, that you can do it by yourself, and Amma will do Amma work. And it was little bit difficult for her to acclimate to that in the beginning, but she also started to enjoy that process. It's like a quiet time, you can say, but mostly I'll say, like, whatever is completely possible for you, you take that one. So she'll take drawing, coloring, sometimes puzzles, whatever that she likes to do by herself. So we'll do that 1 hour where I do something for myself. My recharge happens during that time. And then again, the park time, dinner time, and then sleeping became early. So it used to be like that. Even now, it's right now she's 5. School bus will come at 7 o'clock in the morning, so she will wake up at 6 o'clock. We do our morning routine, and 7 o'clock she have her breakfast and go to school, and then she'll come back in on Thursday, Friday. The timings are a little bit different. So once she comes, so whatever time she comes back, once she comes back, we will have our lunch together, and then we will be sitting together. She'll be asking, she'll be just sharing whatever happened at school, and it is not like sitting and talking. We'll be doing something together when she just opens up all those stuff, and it's a very short time is where what we do during this times and all. It's very small time of connection that happens. We do flashcards. Right now she's 5, so we are doing in PDF only. Like right now we have my daughter is also attending one of the classes, so she loves it. She enjoys that. So I feel like my way of showing flashcards has been taken a back seat right now. So apart from that, we used to do some activities with respect to the right brain stimulation. Intuition activities is something that I never miss, and then we do that, and it's only for half an hour or so. It's not even more than that. After that, it's her independent playtime. So during the independent playtime, she'll be taking the class teacher role, and she will be just teaching her imaginary students, and then she will 2 days once or 3 days once, I'm seeing a pattern that she loves to draw. And recently I've started to play some videos for her to guiding her to draw. She loves to draw those stuff, but earlier it used to be like creative drawing. Even yesterday she was drawing something and showing me, and it was beautiful, like a landscape that she had drawn, and it was very nice. So the creativity time and also the structure time, so it's a combination of both. And around 5 o'clock, 4:15, I'll come to the kitchen. I have an open kitchen, so my daughter just plays in the hall, and I come to the kitchen. Whether I have anything to cook or not, I'll simply stand there. It's again my recharge time. So my time has been getting, the recharge time needs more at this age. So I used to be recharging myself, cooking something for dinner and those stuff. 5:15 she'll come, we will have dinner. 6 o'clock we will go to the room, and our bedtime is always like 1 hour. We will read a lot of books. We do nowadays we are doing a critical thinking game. She loves that so much. We do that because right now she has her own opinions and all that. So we play that and then put her to sleep.
Very nice. That's beautiful. So this will not be perfect all the time, right? Or obviously there will be some distractions, there will be noise, there will be lack of interest, there will be illness and all that. So most of the time the routine or the rhythm, as you said, will follow. But then how do your child again come back to the track in spite of every other distraction that is there for any child?
Yeah, so I see that distractions are like signals to us, right? Whenever there is a distraction, there is a signal that is there, why the child is being distracted. So I constantly observe the signals that it shows, like what message that it shows. That is what I look at. So, and also I strongly believe that every child has a phase of for everything, even for food, sleeping, learning, everything goes on phases, different phases that the child will go through. So if so what happens is that when a child is not focused, when a child is feeling distracted all the time, it also means that whatever the child is currently doing, which is making them distracted or not focused, means that this is not aligned with their current phase of development. So say for example, if I'm giving my child a puzzle to work with, and my child is constantly distracted or not focusing, not actually putting in that attention to do the puzzles, but always thinking about something else. So it is not the fault of the child. There is nothing wrong with the child. So people usually, parents used to think that there is something that is wrong with my child, doesn't want to do the puzzles. Why is that? So we go too much into logic. We try to reason everything, that for our like every behavior of our child, we try to reason it. So I feel that is not required. It's adding too much of stress and pressure to the mother, I would say. So what I see is, if my child is not focusing on the puzzle, then maybe I don't give that puzzle at that phase, because maybe that time they are not concentrating, means it is not alignment with their phase of development. So let me try something else. So maybe that time she's more artistic. If I give her color pencils and do, maybe she will focus and do that particular activity that time. So after 2 to 3 weeks, I'll try to give again the puzzles to see whether the interest has come. So I'll observe whether my child is, how much time the child is able to focus and do it. So that is one thing. The second thing is that whenever you see your child is not focusing on a particular activity, we have to analyze the activity. I strongly have this, the mindset being developed. So whenever that is not working with my child, I always look out for the external things, what is wrong. I never look at my child on what is wrong with my child. I never think that. So that mindset has been, I've been cultivated that mindset already. So whenever something is not working for my child, I never say that something wrong with my child, but instead I look out on the external things, the environment and everything. What is that wrong in the environment that is actually making this problem? So when my child is not focusing on a particular activity, I see what is that problem with the activity, whether it's too complex or whether it's too easy or whether it's not of interest. So what is that problem with that activity? So I changed that. I present it in a different way. So even for the whole brain acceleration activities that we do, we have been doing this since her 5th month, right? So there is a activity called as mandala. So in mandala, the way how my daughter see and play the game when she was 5 months old is completely different from how she plays it at 5 years. So I cannot say that my child is not interested in mandala. I just changed the way how I present that to her. Maybe even in the spatial awareness, space memory is one of the activities we do. When my daughter was around 1 year, 2 year, she'll happy with the grid. She will be placing the objects on the grid. That is how we instruct, right? But after she become 4 years, she never sit with a grid. So what I do is I'll play. I'll ask her to just scan the room for a moment, and then I'll ask her to close the eyes, and I'll ask where was the lamp, where was the clock, where was the TV, and now she's now 5 years, right? She's even more verbal. So I'll just ask her to scan the room for some seconds, and I'll ask her to close her eyes and recollect all the objects that she saw. So that is a photographic memory activation that we do. So if you think that flashcards doesn't work for your child for activating photographic memory, people used to think, okay, flashcards doesn't work. The flashcards is not suitable for my child, doesn't want to see flashcards. But the thing is that flashcard is only the tool. What is that we want to develop in the child's photographic memory? So according to the child's current interest, what I can do. So if you just ask them to scan and then close and recollect from that itself is enough, right? So we have to present them the activities in such a way that it is aligned with the current phase of development. So you can never say that your child's focus is missing, your child's attention is missing. So another example is like, say, if I get a book or a novel which I really don't feel interested in reading, but I'm forced to read it every single day. I've been presented with the same novel over and over. The first day itself, I did not like it. The second day, okay, but third day, I will not be moving after 2 pages, 3 pages. But suppose if this is replaced with something I love, then maybe on one sitting itself, I will complete that book. So it doesn't mean that I have a problem. It doesn't mean that I am distracted. I am not sitting. It's about the material that I don't enjoy. So that is a perspective I see.
Very nice. So the signal what we must try to understand from the child saying that this material is right now not
Right.
suitable for the needs of my development, and I need to be present at something else. So this you're actually understanding my flow of questions also, I guess. I wanted to ask you what kind of environment do you know consciously create at home so that you bring out the child's fullest potential, and I think you mostly answered that question, but if you want to add anything more to you know bring out the child's fullest potential, how did you actually create that environment?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely the environment matters a lot. In fact, it is the basic, I would say. So see, even if you are doing all the best things, best activities that you have in the Pinterest, but the home environment is always, chaotic, when the mother and father is always fighting, that is not where our child want to grow up, right? So it is not just about what activities you do with your child, what is that toys that you buy, what is a book, nothing matters. So your environment, physical environment, the emotional environment, both matters a lot. So the physical environment, when it comes to physical environment, I always make sure that my child is able to independently do things as much as she can, even from her very small as a baby also. So if it is a wardrobe is there, I don't keep the dresses on the top shelf. I All her dresses will be on the top shelf, but there will be 2 or 3 options for her to choose from, will be on the lowest shelf. So the child can actually go and pick up what is that she wants. Similarly, you don't need the shelf or Montessori shelf and all of those stuff. Even if you have just a small table, right now I have the same thing. I have one small table which I have told, this is your dedicated space. Whatever books you want, whatever color pencils you want, everything you just keep it. So she's been maintaining that. So that kind of dedicated spaces, giving them the dedicated spaces. This is something I've been following since she turned 1 year. So I always tell, this is your learning space, this is your book space, this is your. She used to have that potty seat and all that. Even before that, 6 months, 7 months itself, we started potty training. So I used to keep potties always there. So we have to instruct the child with where we expect what. So that way the child will be able to see, okay, this is where I expect the books to be, this is where I expect the bottles to be, this is where I expect the clothes to be. So there is a dedicated space for everything. Right after my daughter 2 years, we also have a simple corner at the home, which we call as the emotional regulation corner. There I have a emotions poster where I'll be putting the happy, sad, angry, and all the colors with that. So I have also instructed, whenever you feel happy, and also there'll be coping strategies also will be there. So whatever it is, we always try to come back to this green zone. So for coming to green zone, these are some of the activities you can choose and try. So this was a visual poster we had when she was 2. So when she was able to name her emotions and all that. So whenever she says I'm angry or sad or something, she'll go to that and she will say, okay, I'll do this, and she'll go and do. So that is one thing. And right now she's 5 now, so we have a space where she have her Play-Doh, she have her that cuddle toy, those 2 things. She loves to color, and artistic expression is something she likes. So she have a pen, pencil, and colors there. So whenever she's feeling restless, she go there. So that is a dedicated space for it. So apart from this physical environment, the emotional environment also matters. What do I mean by emotional environment is by the people ourselves. How are we talking to the child? How are we talking with each other in the family? Some people live in the joint family setup, and some of them are in the nuclear setup. So how are we actually talking to others in the family? That is all what the child is actually learning, right? The child is not learning. So the child is not learning through your instructions. The child is learning mostly based on what you do. They are seeing, they are observing, and they do it automatically. So little bit consciousness about what we are talking in front of the child. I would say that it's not, initially it will be like a consciously doing thing. When we begin this journey, we will be very conscious about what we talk, how we talk, and then it becomes part of you. When you are very intentional about it, it becomes a part of you. And when you were asking about the routines, right? So we also have this morning prayer routine and bedtime prayer routine that we never miss out. So it's like the way of, saying gratitude is again the bedtime routine that we have. After books, we share three gratitudes of us, and also we share three goals of us. What are the three goals you have? I have. So we tend to share that on every single night. It has become part of our lifestyle. So whatever we do, first time it will be like more conscious, and then it will be like flow of life, it will be like that. So physical environment, how much ever the physical environment matters, this similarly the presence of the people around the child, that also definitely matters a lot. So consciousness, what we talk, because those are the subconscious belief system that the child is going to get. And these are like blueprint stamp. So you can definitely change your physical environment. If the table is not good, you will replace it so easily. If that this home is not good, we will replace it easily. But whatever that we create during in this emotional environment is not something that you can erase easily. It's like a stamp that is being gone deeply into the child. So I'm so conscious about what are the beliefs that my child carries and what are the values my child carries. You can learn math, English, and all of those things wherever you go. There are so many exposure to us. Even if you are someone who doesn't want to learn anything, our environment in such a way that you will learn something, these qualities and all of that, these cognitive things. But when it comes to the moral values that we want to develop within ourselves, all of these things is something that only the of course school does have a part, but we don't want to let anybody else teach this. Everybody else can teach you alphabets, numbers, and all that, but when it comes to some of the values that you want to live your life with, I think we have to be more conscious about it, because I have certain values that I follow with myself right from my childhood. Whenever I give a word, I never skip that. I never go. If a word is given, it's given. That's it. I make sure that I'm completing whatever it is. I'm very true to my friends. I'm very true to my close circle, whomever. The people used to say that you do anything for your friends. That is the kind of loyalty, honesty, self-belief, self-image. These things, self-belief, self-image, I am very bad at it. I was very bad at I never believed myself so much. That is also being created by the stamps that I had been receiving since my childhood. So I am very conscious my child is not getting the same stamps, so she doesn't have to unlearn. So right now in self, I used to be very tell her like what is confidence means to her. She has to be more confident. So these values is something that only the home environment with the conscious parents can only bring that, right?
So I'm sure there will be a lot of things, then relearning, and then you have your core strengths that you want to implement in your life, and same has been I can say cascaded down to your child as well. And this is what I also keep telling to our samskara parents, that everything you can learn in school, but values are something which starts from home, and that is where you have to focus on, and that is what you have to first teach, rather than sending kids to too many tuitions, too many other activities. If you're not focusing on values, then tomorrow when we are not there also, kids must be able to make their own decisions, take the right step. They should not be confused. They should be very confident enough as to whatever they are doing for themselves and for their family. So yeah, that's the wonderful thing that you told. So there is something called as discipline, which you told that we have this space for this and all that, and we do this way, we speak to people this way. So similarly, there is something called as having that freedom at home as well. It feels like after I come back from home, I'm someone who is like a folded handkerchief, and I want to release myself. So how do you handle discipline and freedom at home for your child?
Okay, so instead of saying discipline, I strongly believe in boundaries. Boundaries is something that's the only thing I always look at. When the boundaries are right, I don't feel there's a need for discipline as such. So what we have, that we have certain boundaries communicated with love, clarity, not with arrogance, not with fear. There are two different ways how you communicate something to the child. So if I say there is no chocolates during during lunchtime. It is like no chocolates. It's a firm thing. I also explain why, and also it's like the firm thing when we say it is not there. Of course, it is not there. So there is no negotiation there. There is no negotiation. Okay, only today. So I think I've been lucky enough to, firmly following most of my boundaries and very consciously set boundaries. That's the reason. I don't set boundaries for anything and everything. So when we go out, there is no boundary like you don't eat an ice cream now. Sometimes, we happily enjoy an ice cream together. So when we are going out, of course, that boundary there is no boundary set there. So when we go out for once in a week or 2 weeks, once we are going out, we are going to a movie, we are having a popcorn there. There is no boundary that is set that no movie, no popcorn like that. So there is nothing wrong in that. But when it comes to home, we have certain boundaries that is there. Like, I'm very firm about certain boundaries, and I've made sure that those are the very important boundaries I've set. And I always have this check whether this is important or this is important. Okay, this is whatever. Let me be okay with this. So if my child doesn't take a nap, it's okay for me because she will anyway sleep early. But if my child delaying the bedtime, it's not okay. Every day we come back maximum 6:15, we will be in the bed. That's it. There is nothing to see anything, there is nothing else we think of beyond that. So my daughter used to, do a lot of things right after. So it's like this, right after dinner, we go to bed. So the moment I'm washing the vessels, she will go and make the bed. So that is what we have clearly communicated. So I will wash the thing. You will go and get the bed ready. So what she will do, she will pick up all the books she wants to read. And also even in that, we have a boundary right now that only 3 books or 4 books. Right now, it's like 2 books she read herself, 2 books I read. So that is how it is. So 2 books, that's it. And by the
because my son is 5, so at the end of the day, me and my husband would be so tired that you can't read all 5 books. So it's like 2 books.
my
Why
daughter,
do you
when
need
she was
one
2 years, yeah, when she was 2 years, she does this. She bring all the books, and I was like, no way. So I'll say today only 3 books. How many books? 3. So pre-hydrating 3 books, and she'll be like, only one more. Sorry, dear, only 3 books today. You choose what are the 3 important books and bring only the 3 important. And then we moved to 2 books, and it was like then later on the stories are also becoming big, no? So we used to have 2 books. Now it's like now since we are not reading the whole that those times and all, we be reading the whole day for bedtime. Also, we will read. So nowadays it's not like reading, and she is also reading chapter books now. She wants to explore that, and she's very confidently, happily reading. So we'll be having 1 page only she will read. 2 books for you, 2 books for me, 1 page every day. So even the 2 books that I read is a chapter book now, but she have a Frozen book, which is like a young reader's novel. I cannot read the entire book. So we'll read 1 chapter a day. That's it. So what happens is that when you set boundaries, when you set boundaries and we will be firm with it for certain things, only for few things, it automatically reflects in every other thing. So if I have whenever she wakes up in the morning, the first thing we go do is not going to the hall, not going to the kitchen, not roaming around the house, definitely not going and lying on the sofa. All of these things are not there at all. The moment you wake up, you be as much as relaxation you do in the bed itself, but the moment you come down, you remove your clothes, you go to the bathroom straight. So that is something that I've consciously made it because I don't know, I like that. And also it's so difficult if my child goes to the hall, and it's very tiring to come. I don't like that. I don't like calling over and over. It's not something that I encourage. There are days when, especially on the weekends, when her father at home, my husband used to do that. When he's waking up, he'll go to the hall. It's his way of growing up, going and sitting on the living room. I don't like that. I've not grown up like that. My mom used to say, moment you wake up, go to the restroom. So that's how I've been. So I like to go to the restroom straight, go to the bath, brush, do my things and come back. So, but he's little different. So we cannot parent that grown up kid, right? So we cannot do that. But my daughter sees that also, right? So she goes and sit and relax like this. So I'll say, okay, Shradhu, Amma is ready now to help you bath. If you're coming now, I'll do it. Otherwise, you have to do it on your own. So she will decide. Let her decide whether she wants Amma to help or she wants to do it herself. Whatever she chooses. Some days she will say, okay, Amma, I will bath later. I will be okay. Are you sure? I'll be asking 4 times. Are you sure? Yes, yes. I'll be asking who is going to bath. She won't reply. I'll wait for her to reply. Who is going to bath? I will bath. Are you sure? I'm not going. I'm going to bath, and I will not help you bath after I finish bathing. Sometimes, the initial times she will be testing, right? So she's like, okay, and then I go to bath, I come back, and then she will come and stand. Amma, let's go to bath. I'll be like, no, I said I'm not coming. I am not coming. Sometimes she'll cry and make a scene. I'll be like, sorry, Shradhu, I told you multiple times, you have to do it on your own, or you take the help from Appa. Then they both go and bath. So since I communicated properly and then I firmly stand with it, I'll be like, sorry, I cannot. I'm not able to do that. So the next time onwards, she will decide consciously, okay, whether I want to do it myself or Amma wants to help. So she'll immediately say, okay, I'm coming. Like that, she'll come. So whether she wants to come or she wants to don't want to come, do it herself, it's all up to her. But for me, my input is like, I'll give you what is that needs to be done, what is the consequence of it. I'll explain it carefully. With that, my thing is done. When I'm holding a boundary, when I'm setting a boundary, I'll also hold it. So I don't set boundaries for every random thing. That is also not there. Only for whichever is non-negotiable for me, some things that triggers me, all of these things we have strict boundaries. Like, during the independent play time, if it is an independent play time, you have to play independently. You cannot come and constantly asking me, what is this? Amma, help me. I will say, just close the book. We will do this later. Not now. Whatever is possible for you to do it on your own, bring that. I never help during those independent playtime. I'll help you on the other times. I will not help you at that time, because that time is because if I give in at that point, every day I'll have to lose my me time. I don't want to do that. That's going to trigger me a lot. So I'll be very conscious about, because I'm not a very Buddha kind of a person. So I want to make sure my emotions are on par. So boundaries, very important. So when you are keeping the boundaries, this discipline, never thought of any kind of negative disciplines at all. I think this boundary holding, and when the child is not respecting the boundary, whatever consequence that we have, that is the positive discipline we do. Sometimes a child cries, we just hold them, we just validate that, okay, you feeling so bad that you did not do this, it's okay, can we try this again later? Likewise, that's what we do, that's it.
Perfect. Holding your space and you're saying that this is what has to be done and this is how we are going to do it. I think that is very important. But then if you had just taken her again to bath, then she will obviously feel that, okay, Amma will say, but she will also accept this. So that is a total no. I think this is a very big input for all the parents, that we, with lot of that motherly love, we will melt down and we will do that, but that should not be done. And that's how you
very secret. This is definitely a secret for happy parenting. If you want to be happy, mindful, conscious, gentle, whatever you call it, if you want all of these, a peaceful parenthood, then this is something you have to establish from the beginning, and it becomes easier. Otherwise, I'm not very sure how it's going to be. It's going to be very, very difficult.
Right. So now that now that you brought your husband also into the picture, I want to understand, how are you both contributing to this journey? And not only to this journey, but of course you guys will have your me time, you will have your movie time, you will have your times where you want to read your own books and you want to spend time with yourself. So how do you manage that, and how are you both? And as you said, both of us would have been brought up in a different way. Both of us have different parents, different way of parenting. Now, how are you both aligned towards this?
Okay, so this is very interesting question. My HPO parents used to always, admire whenever we do the retreat. My HPO parents used to come, and even the last retreat, people were saying, "Ma'am, now we know how you are able to do all this. Everything is coming from sir only," like that. So yeah, so my daughter was born in pandemic, right? So thankfully and happily we got work from home. So from the moment my daughter was born, my husband has been there with me. We both are doing parenting together. There is I think it's also a conscious decision. It's not like mistakenly we are coming into the parenthood. It was never been like that. So we were in a relationship for 10 years before our wedding. So it is like I know him since 2011, and we got married in 2019. And even after we got married, I was not very sure about becoming a mother, giving a birth to a child and all of those things, because I was literally scared. And literally scared because I did not wanted to take up all the responsibility myself, because we that's what we used to see in the families, and also in the movies and everything, right? Once you become a mother, entire family is being put on to you, the entire headache is going to be on you. So I was literally scared. I was not very sure that what if I have to do all alone. So my husband, even from that time, he used to say that it's not like you only have to do this, parenting is part of both. So that clarity he was having from the beginning. So in fact, by some blessing, we got the COVID lockdown when my daughter was born. So I was the most happiest person with the lockdown, because he got work from home. I cannot even imagine what would have been my postpartum things would be if not he is with me during the baby's birth. I'm so scared to, I don't want to get into the second child option only for that. I cannot deal all alone again. So that clarity is already there for him. So when it comes to, diaper changing, making the child sleep, giving me some sleep time, all of these things, it was all taken care by him, even though I don't go and say it. I don't ask for it. I used to be a person who does everything all by myself. I was very bad at, asking for help. I think that is also one of the qualities that mothers naturally have. These are the qualities that we will naturally get. Not the ones we want, but these kind of qualities we naturally get. So I used to be, never ask for help. But also touchwood, it is like he understood, he also be a partner in parenting. It is not like I have to go and tell, do this, do that, etc. But after some time, right? So initial days and all, it's all okay. When taking care of the child and all that, it was okay. But after that, you start to see that there is a difference in the way how you are and how your husband is. So that difference started to show up, like, when we were in the kitchen, we cook together. Many times we used to cook together, but I have a way of, cooking and cleaning together. So whenever I'm using a bowl, I immediately go and wash it. And my husband used to be like, not like that. And when he cooks, it's like the entire kitchen is messy and all that. Little bit slightly irritate me and all that. So there is a huge things that we start to notice. The same thing you start to notice in the way of how you talk, how you becoming, mindful about the talks and all that. So since I don't have that quality of asking for help or sharing this, sometimes I will be feeling like I'm being so tired all day, taking care of my child and everything and doing all my work. But my husband is relaxing so happily on the sofa, scrolling through Instagram. I will be, sometimes, subconsciously triggers you. And immediately you're not caring anything about what is happening in the house, like that we just blast. And honestly, one day it was like a blast, like that he was simply sitting on the sofa, he was doing something, and my child is, constantly asking me, amma give me this, amma give me that. And there was a huge, every day this difference you are noticing, right? But you're not putting it out there. So what happened that day when my child was constantly asking me everything, I just blasted out, you're not caring what is happening in the house. Why are you always asking me? Why don't you go and ask Appa? Likewise, it just blasted. And then he was standing there not understanding what is happening. What am I doing here? Why everybody is now turning on towards me? And then he was saying, like, what do you want me to do? I was like, don't you see what's in the house? Can you just go? Can you not just go and wash that cooker right there? The sink is full of vessels. Can't you go and wash it? You see that the laundry is still drying. Can you not fold the clothes and keep it inside? Can't you just do this? Can't you just do that? Likewise. And he was standing there. If you had told me, I would have done. No. Why are you shouting for that? Then I was like, why should I come and tell you? Can't you see? He was like, I cannot see. That was like huge bulb on for me, because how a girl, a woman see is not equal to how a man see. I was like shocked. I was not able to understand. What are you saying you can't see? Can't you see the house is a mess? He was like, only after you said I'm noticing. Then only I realized, okay, how he sees the home, how he sees the world is completely different from how I am seeing it. So I said, okay, he said, okay, now I'll go and wash. Wait. And he did the washing, he did the laundry, he did the folding, he put the dresses back in the washing machine. Everything was done once after I told him all of these things. That actually gave me a biggest lesson that, we are expecting them to see the world the way how we see it, but it is actually completely opposite. The how you think is completely different from how your husband thinks. How you see the child is completely different from how your husband sees your child. And of course they are not doing it for wantedly. Sometimes they really don't know. So we have to go and ask for it, we have to go and tell to them. So they will do it, they may do it for sure. But what happens is that we assume that they have to pick it up by all by themselves. That is the problem, I think. After I realized that, every time I used to say, see, so that it has been a even after that incident, every time laundry folding is his work, putting in the washing machine is in, he's also becoming aware. Once we just open up that consciousness, I think that is enough. And also when it comes to parenting, right? So I've been so consciously learning all these methods of how I can talk to my child, how to put the boundaries. Oh God, the boundaries thing, it doesn't work unless until you and your husband are in the same zone, same phase. So when we just started with the boundaries setting, I be very firm, and my husband used to, cross the boundary so easily, because he cannot see the child again and again asking for the same thing. And so he'll be like, okay, give it once, no. Like when he used to say, and I'll say, see, this is a boundary I have. If you have anything, you go and deal with her. And then later, I again realized that we have to be in the same page for us to make sure that our child is not getting confused. So, I used to give him some ideas about this is what it is. She wants to do this, but we don't want to allow it to happen. Can we both try this together? If you can't see that happening, you can just step out from that zone. I can just make sure that I am holding her, and also all of those things. So we be in that zone. And then,
So it's
sorry?
collaborative.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I don't think if you're not collaborative, not just with your spouse, but also if whoever the caretakers is in the family, otherwise the child is going to get a lot of confusion. And if the people, if so there are a lot of people who lives with a joint family setup, right? So wherever it is needed, those places at least it should be communicated to them, and some collaboration should be there. Otherwise, what happens is that the child gets confused, and you will be portrayed as a villain. And no mother wants to do that, right? And also we cannot just like that leave, do whatever you want. It's not something that we can do for our children. Others may do. Even the father will be like, okay, do whatever you want, but the mother cannot. That compass cannot shift. So we were so conscious. And one of the other things which I started to notice is that for the first 2, 3 years also, we've always been putting our daughter in the first place. And we tend to lose, it's only after she sleeps we talk. It's only after, it's always the three of us go together anywhere we want to go and all that. So I started to feel that there is something is missing, some connection is missing, maybe, even though we all so right now, last 2 years we were in Chennai. So that time my husband used to work from home. Even he's in the home, I'm in the home, but still the conversations doesn't happen. Yes, absolutely. So I was thinking, like, why is that so? Then I talked to him, asking that, see, we are always being the mother and father roles. What happened to Nalini and Surya? So we were thinking about it. Even not even too much of communication, too much of conversation didn't happen, but that one thing stuck us. And I was feeling like we have to always go to that, also go to that you and me, becoming, you and me, sometimes putting the first place, not
Yeah.
just the mother and father for the child. We made some conscious efforts in going out together alone without my child. I mean, So, the first 3 years, it's very difficult to do those things because, especially for people who are in the nuclear setup, you, your husband, your child, a lot of my family members are also there. They have their in-laws. And right from the sixth month, 1 year also, the child will be taken care by the grandparents and the mother and father goes out. Sometimes I really envy that. I can simply give my child to my parents to take care and we both happily. I see a lot of couples, they go out for a tour also and all that. Sometimes, I used to feel like, what if we also have that kind of a setup? So it all has its own plus and minus. But for us, it's never been an option at all. So, and my child doesn't go to school as well. So there is no way how we can go to a place where we can only go alone. So those moments, you don't have to wait till you go out alone. Even in the house, sometimes my daughter will be playing and we cooking together is the kind of happy me time that we are spending together. We Sundays we are cooking, we both cook together. So that is the time where we are sharing that bonding. It doesn't have to be always the dates and going to the movies alone or going to a trip. If you're waiting for those things, you'll be heavily disappointed and the disconnect will also be coming. So at home itself, what is that we want to consciously do? So we made a thing that if after Shradhu sleeps, we will sit and talk for some time. That is something we had to made it consciously. And I was even saying that it's so sad that we are coming to a place where we are consciously deciding this. So it used to be like after she sleeps, yeah, after she sleeps, we will also sleep. Sometimes I'll be sitting on the work. He will also do some work or scrolling Instagram, both phones, because that's the only time we are catching up with the world, right? So I said, like, okay, we are going to at least talk for some time after she sleeps. So that made that small move made a good thing. And then after she started to go to school, we really wanted to go out for a cafe or a movie or something like that. I don't think we have done that likewise, but we have once in a while we go to some shopping together after dropping her to school. But yeah, we definitely have to have that me time for the relationships. And also, I strongly believe that creating those moments together at home is also very important. We don't have to wait until our child is not there, but even with the child, how are you spending your quality time with the partner? That's more important because we always tend to focus on the child, the relationship with the child, but we take it for granted. The relationship with the spouse is something that we take it for granted. So we have some rituals also. We have some rituals like every year December month we sit and do our vision board together. Mostly we will go on a staycation or a vacation and we do our vision board together. That's something that we are doing for the past 3 years. Never been a year without me doing alone or he doing alone. He doesn't do alone. So I don't do it alone. I want him to be a part. We will both together do it. And also, whenever I'm doing the goals and gratitude, I also make him to do something along. So we both share some rituals together. Every Friday we do pujas at home. So right now he is going to office, so it's only me who is doing. But when he was in work from home, we do pujas together. Satyanarayana Puja, we do it together. So wherever it is possible to do some things together with where we share the love, bonding, connection, I think we have to find those spaces and consciously fill it because
Absolutely
it's
correct.
not going to be there. We have to consciously fill those moments of bonding with our spouse for sure.
So initially, the kids sleep, the conversation. First of all, in our case, we used to sleep off. Literally, we are so tired for the whole day that you sleep. Then
Yes.
second thing, when you're consciously talking also, we're speaking only about kids. We don't have any other topic to speak. Slowly started, that we started, "Oh, we don't have anything to speak, right? What do we speak?" So this was something which always used to come in between. But yeah, that's beautiful that doing puja together, doing cooking together at home itself. We can take out that time. So I've heard it somewhere that you cannot get time for everything. You have to manufacture time. You have to take the time out of the schedule and do it, or else it will
Absolutely.
never ever happen. So this one question which is always curious, right from the time I'm seeing other parents on Instagram and all that. So there are many parents who are aiming for these world records, these many flashcards shown, these many things my child can identify, and there are a lot of achievements. Of course, personally feel that this may be their personal goals that my child must do this. But what is your take on these world record events involving kids? And do you
So
think
basically,
it's only beneficial for kids, or it's mostly about the parents' ambition?
it depends on what is that record for. First thing.
Ah,
So I have seen kids who have so one of our students whose child was 2.5 years, and he plays badminton. He
yes.
did 5 consecutive shots and he got a record. I think that is
Wow.
something exceptional. It's something
Hmm.
exceptional for a 2.5-year-old to even no, hand-eye coordination itself is still developing, and the child is doing
Right.
five consecutive badminton shots and just develop that. It's something exceptional, and it's also about the because the parents and the family was aware of his potential, so they have brought that out. So similarly, we all have an intention for our child. We all have a thinking threshold that this is what possible for my child, right? So what happens is that when people are seeing that, say for example, we have been seeing a lot of children identifying a lot of flashcards and get records out of it. So for me, when you personally ask me, my 5-month-old was able to recognize all the colors, all the animals, all the birds. But for me, I felt this is just the beginning. I never felt this is like, this is exceptional thing. I've never felt that. And I felt like, oh my God, this is just the beginning. My child is able to identify like anything and everything that I show. How can I hone this in a very different, like, what can I do with this? Is what my thought process was. So I've never considered identifying flashcards as an exceptional thing for my daughter. At the same time, when my daughter finished 2.5 white belt in piano at 2.5 years, I felt it is so exceptional. And also, even that, I did not wanted to go for get a record or a certificate of world record, 2.5 years finished white belt. That thing was not there in my mind, because I see that as a one of the milestone. Maybe we have a long way to go, is what I feel. I think for my mindset right now, whatever my daughter is doing, I really appreciate it. I really show it up that it is a very beautiful thing that she have done and all that. But I don't know if there will be anything that I feel like this is a destination kind of a thing where she have achieved her everything. I don't think I will be having that mindset. Similarly, strongly believe that whatever record or whatever world attempt that we do, something has to be in the consciousness of that individual. So right now we have over 8,000 parents in HPU community. So I think for this kind of a niche, like nurturing genius potential of a child from early years, I think we are the world's only community who have such a large students base. So, but that is not the end, right? This is only the beginning. We have a lot more to do. For my consciousness, getting the honorary doctorate in early childhood education for whole brain acceleration, I feel that is an exceptional thing. For my consciousness, I feel my framework that I've developed, I got a honorary doctorate for that. It's something exceptional. For my conscious, I think that is something I would always cherish for. There is nothing, I don't think anything beyond I can do for that part. But for this kind of things, there is always a learning, there is always a growth that is there. Similarly, for kid also, there are times when my daughter used to say these stuff like, I want to write, publish a book. How can I do that? She'll draw in the papers. She have a small notebook in which she have completely written story also. She have her own character name, and even she have written the words also. Like one sentences she have written. She used to say, I want to publish this. How do I do that? So I think that is also a learning for her consciousness right now. She's saying that maybe by God's grace, if she is getting more interested in that, and if she publishes like some books, and if she gets that credibility recognition where she feels that this is something exceptionally I have done, then I would consider, yes, that's fantastic. Similarly, I strongly believe that every single person's world record attempt or something like that has to be coming from the consciousness of that individual. So if that consciousness of that individual is not there, but it is based on the other individuals' consciousness, then definitely it is a recognition and an achievement for that individual. So whoever have that consciousness is the winner of that record. So for a child like a 4 month old, 6 month old, etc., if the child is able to identify the flashcards, I don't really fully give the credit only for the child. I give the full credit for the parent. Because see, for I believe every child is a born genius. Every child has a photographic memory in their brain, right? So only when the parent is giving them the exposure and giving them that environment, they are able to see it. So if the child is able to identify, so I have a lot of kids, when you are even whoever is watching this video, if you have a very small baby, 4 months, 5 months, whatever, just take some objects, images, and just flash them once, like elephant or and ask them what is this, and they will point it out, right? 100%, I'm sure, because children have photographic. It's just that we do not know that yet. But the parents are actually seeing it. They are putting in that effort in consistently showing them flashcards and bringing out that. So it is an effort of the parent to make sure that this is being visible. So whatever the world record that they get is the result of their effort. I truly, that is something that has to be recognized if they want. Again, it's up to what is the threshold that you have and the belief about yourself. We all individuals are like, we all need a recognition, right? We are all, especially for those people who have never been on stage, who have never been recognized for the small works. Of course, we all thrives for with recognition, so we all looking for someone to appreciate me. So that is also there. So that's why we really love when there is a recognition that takes place. But at what cost is something that we have to definitely ask. I've seen people who are naturally doing it, and they are just applying it, and they're just getting that recognition for themselves, so they feel motivated, inspired, and if the process is joyful, if the process is not pressuring, there is nothing wrong about it. But at the same time, if you're doing this for prestige, if you're doing this for a pressure, if you're feeling that every other child is having, let me also get it, if that is there, if the out of comparison, I don't encourage those things. I see certain people, they feel like, okay, this baby have done this, let me also learn this, let me also do this, let me also get that record. Sometimes what happens, they are first applying for the record, and then they are making the child do that. So these things is not something I support at all. So it's definitely not required also, because I've seen a lot of people, especially in this case, the flashcards recognition. Once after they identify the flashcards, once they get that award, they don't do anything else after that using that, because their threshold, their destination is to get that award. So once they reach that goal, they have stopped, and it's only the beginning, right? So it's just the beginning, and with that you can actually grow more. So the intention matters, and also the consciousness of what you are getting is matters. I do have a few people in our community who have taken the world record, and after the world, they have been used to be very active throughout the sessions. They have children loves to identify so many flashcards, they are so good. But once they got that record, they share that picture showcasing that my child have done this, done that, and then I've seen them going completely off, not being active at all. I feel so sad for them. Like, they have been doing it so well, but just with that record, they have stopped themselves from doing it. And also, there is another one or two members who have been doing it and also got the record, but also they continue to, because this is just not the destination for them. So, how do you see the record? Is what is going to define it. And even if the child is getting world's number one, athletes, if you look at athletes, if you look at the sports teams and all that, it's not just you getting world's number one title just one time. It's just part of your journey, but you continue to grow, you continue to learn, you keep going. So whether you are getting the record or not, it is just part of the journey. If it is there, it's okay, but that shouldn't be the destination. That shouldn't be something that putting marks to your intelligence. it is not, you should not be weighed with the number of records or awards or things. I'll be very honest, all of these awards and all of those things, most of them can be easily bought, right? None of, people are paying a crazy amount of money to get those records, and I don't feel that is the kind of record we would like to get. If you are getting like a Padma Bhushan, it's not something that you can buy, right? It just had to be earned. So I strongly support the records or things that is awards that is being earned and not bought. So even in our we have this recognition. We have Rise of Genius, we have Super Genius, we have Holistic Champions. Even if you give me 1 crore rupee asking for that Super Genius, I will not give you. Even if you give me so much of money and ask me, can I become a Brainathon finisher? Can you give me the Brainathon t-shirt and Rise of Genius? No, I won't give you. You have to earn it. You do the 21-day Brainathon challenge and then you get the Rise of Genius. You consistently do it for 3 months, 6 months, you automatically become a Super Genius. You do it, you earn it. So if the record is being something that you are earning it, value, that is a true value, because you have surpassed and you have grown beyond this record, what this record can say about you. If this record says about you something, now when you earn it, you become bigger than this. That's how I see this whole recognition and all that.
If parents understand this ground reality, their parenting also will become more easier, I think. So this is very important
Absolutely.
for them. Correct. So now we have spoken a lot about, that ideal parenting, and a mother who is very conscious about her child, how she can raise the child is what we learned. But then there are some parents who are really unaware about what their child can do naturally. They're not at all aware that there is something called as, lessons of parenting which we must take care of. They don't know about boundaries. They're basically, I can say, in total mask of things, that very lazy, very much unaware. So what is that message that you want to give to those parents? I don't want to say mothers, but both father and mother, because I want to bring this up as well, that when a mother comes in an inquiry for samskara program, and at the end of the me explaining everything, now then she wants to explain everything to her husband, and mother already knows the importance of it, but father is totally unaware. And there are times where father has inquired and mother is totally unaware, and they're trying to convince the program, and then the value comes into picture and all that. Then they totally don't know what their child can do. They totally are not at all aware about what the child is actually. So what is that one message you want to give to parents to put their efforts towards awareness, basically? And what are those damages that are caused by the negligence or passive parenting, where especially in early years, that have just given birth to my child and it's just growing, I'm just giving food to it and it's growing, and nothing else is taken care of, and they're only worried about their me time movies and all that, but totally unaware. They only know that they have to put them to the school, nothing else. And that because there is again societal pressure. Otherwise, I don't know whether they'll even put their kids to school or not. So, what is that message you want to give to such parents?
This is a very sensible topic to talk about, first of all, because being aware of whether I'm aware or not itself is a question mark nowadays,
Correct.
right? Whether I'm aware or not, a question mark. So, first thing is that I strongly believe that until you get a problem, you don't really know anything about it. So, if I have a headache, only then I care so much about my headache. And then I go and check, why did I get this headache? How can I cure it? And everything. So most of the times what happens is that parents, or not just parents, but also any individual, they wait till a problem shows up. They wait till they are suffering. They wait till they cannot think of anything else. What can I do? When they are going into that zone, only they start to be more aware, to think about what has happened, what I can do now, how I can fix it quickly. All of those stuff shows up right there. There are also other set of parents who are very aware, conscious, Even though they do not know what needs to be done, they at least know that something has to be done. That is how, I started my journey like that. I do not know what needs to be done, but I know something has to be done so that I'm not passively parenting my daughter. I wanted to take that control because right now, 0 to 6 years, I am the most influential person. I want to be more responsible. I don't know what I will do. I don't know what is the best thing I can give, but I make sure that I am being very intentional and conscious about what I do, what step I do. So there are two different types of parents, but of course, the second thing is only like 1% or 2% of the world population up. Otherwise, it will be like no. So the first thing is, first the parent, whoever is watching this video, also can just look back at them, just a reflection for them, asking whether I am happy with my parenting, whether I am happy with my child and my self connection, whether I am happy with the way how I'm raising my child. All of these questions. If the answer is really good, yes, I'm being so conscious, I'm being so intentional, whatever, it's not about you being happy all the time. It's about whether you are aware about what is happening. If that answer is yes, it means that you are already a conscious parent. You have something that you are being mindful about. The second category, they will have all these answers to be no. I have a lot of problems. My child is always throwing tantrum. My child is not at all listening to me. My child doesn't want to sit at one place. My child doesn't focus. All of these. My child is always watching screens. So now that you know where all you have all these problems, are you ready to really take that work, make it work the way how you want it to be? And parents usually think that the way of finding a solution is by fixing the child. It's never like that. It's never about fixing the child. It's about fixing what you have done to them, what you're going to do for them. So if the parent is going to that level of consciousness of whatever that is caused to the child, is not the child that themselves have grabbed all of those things, but it's also something related to the actions that I have made or the society have made that has brought him to that position. You will be able to reverse them. You will be able to find the solutions of how you can bring that back, bring the connection back, bring the values back, and all that. So there are two types again. One set of parents who really want to take action and make a change because they don't want this to be continuing like this. There is other set of parents who is like, okay, I cannot do anything. I've tried everything, but I've not succeeded, so I'm not going to try anything. So that is the case. So if that is the ignorance that we have, then obviously we are not raising children, we are raising the adults, right? So adults in the future. So it's going to be affecting not only that house but also the world. We are seeing people being so intelligent, but if they do not know where to use that intelligence, it's going to be a bigger problem in the world. Now, again, these ignorant people, they will not care about what happens to the world also because they don't care about the child, they don't care about the world also. So we cannot do much about them, those people, because they are not under our control. There is nothing that we can go and, push them and try to, because they want to do only that. Unless until there is a big problem that happens, or unless until they realize that this has become so big that I'm not able to handle, till that point, nothing can be done. Unfortunately, it's so painful. But parents who are feeling like, I don't want this to happen. I don't want to go to that stage. Let me be very conscious now itself. Let me be very mindful about my actions now itself so I can prevent it. So it's always prevention is always better than cure. That is one thing for sure. And the second part of your question asked about the mother coming and inquiring and then wants to get the okay from their husband and everything. So this is again what how I see is this. See, where even though you are a partners, the parenting partners, even though it is like that, the way of consciousness that you are building is completely different from the way of consciousness that your spouse is building, the way of consciousness that your mother have. So each one of us are individuals. So your journey is very unique to you. What you are learning, what you are consuming, what you're going through is very unique from what your husband is going through. I'll tell you a very simple example with my own thing. Okay, my husband has been very supportive when it comes to everything, even my business, parents. whatever, right? So as I'm growing, as we are, he's having a different work, I have a different work. So till a point in our business, it's all completely, both of us involved in it completely. So there were a lot of other things also additionally I will learn, of course, right? Because this is my complete business. Apart from his, he doesn't learn anything for my work. He just give his input, creative inputs and all that. But for me, I am learning so much from different mentors. I'm learning so much on the market and how I can grow my impact, all of these stuff. So there was a time where 2 years ago, there was a time where I was really confident about one of my mentors, and I felt like this is the place I want to be. And the investment was little bit on a higher side. So it was 2 lakhs. So where I was very confident about, because I've been going through a lot of things, and I've been trying trial and error. So much of trial and error is happening, and I felt like, okay, maybe this is the right, and also intuitively got connected with that person. So I felt like, okay, this is the place where I really want to be. So I, even though I know that this is what I want, even though I clearly see that this is what my intuition also says me to do, even though I'm very confident that after I go there, I will be growing and I'll be multiplying my impact. So even of all the confidence, I really wanted to share this with my husband and ask for an okay. Because I was very confident, I was very clear, I was having such a clarity. So I went and talked to him because he knows my business in and out, right? He knows my business in and out. We have been building this together. Okay, we are like not just life partners, we are business partners also. Like we have built this together. He know every single action that we do. Even in that perspective, he was not very sure whether how can you go and invest 2 lakh rupee in this program. You don't even know what it is, who you don't even know who it is. What if it doesn't work? All of these questions came up. That's when this realization happened. Even though you both work together, even though you know every single plug in the business, but still what you have gone through is completely different from what he have gone through, and what is the level of consciousness that I have raised is completely different from what is the consciousness that he have raised. So now I have to make a decision whether I can still be doubtful and go for something else, or I can trust my confidence and intuition, because I know that this is something that is going to take my business to the next level. So I have to now take a decision. So I made the decision, I paid, and of course I grow the impact as I already committed, because I was so confident. Similarly, I see a lot of parents coming to my webinars, attending till the end, and say I will go and consult with my husband, and they never come back. So whenever anybody says that I will ask my husband, I will say, you don't ask your husband. Next webinar, again free webinar only I will do. Bring your husband. Let me explain. Because you have now sit here for 2 hours sitting and listening to me, and people who are coming to my webinar are not directly coming to my webinar. They have been seeing me in Instagram for so many months, sometimes so many years, right? They have been used to my content. They have been looking at what I'm doing. They know me, what I'm doing, what I do, what are the results. Because webinar is where I just give you the glimpse of what I offer. But they see me in Instagram, they see what I do, they see what are the success stories we create. All of these things has been seeded in their mind already. They come to the webinar to see what is the offer, what is the price. So in this case, even if you go and explain everything to your husband, I'm sure that he's not going to understand a single word, because for them, logically what it is, the total amount is 6,999. Why? How can you trust that 6,999 to her? What is that you are going to get from this? What if you don't use it? These are the logical questions, and it's very true. I'm not hearing.
Child will sit inside the online session or not. It's you don't have to go anywhere. It's just at the comfort of your home,
Yes,
sitting
yes.
there and doing. Still, there's so much of no
Right.
confidence at all on the child, no belief on the child. How do we take it forward? Child is the person.
Mostly, I strongly believe that, it's not the approval from the entire universe to tell you that it is possible for you. I have a lot of my students who have joined our membership without the knowledge of their family members only. And some people, they do the flashcards hiding inside a room. And you know what? With kids, right? we have seen the results with the kids. And when the results is coming from the kid, automatically everybody believes. So we have a lot of stories like this where parents say that my husband did not know that I joined because he is not going to understand. Because I trusted you, I just joined, and I also do the flashcards. Initially, he used to think, what are you doing with the child? This is not right, and all. And then later, when he's seeing that the clarity in the child's thoughts, process, and the thinking, speaking, and everything, then they feel like, okay, you are doing some, they don't. So everybody will be understanding you. Nobody will say a no to you once you prove them just once. There is a slight difference, when a man says, I'm going to start this, I'm going to do this, etc., we women, we unconditionally trust them. We say that, yes, you're going to make it big. I'm going to support you 100%. This is what the women say. But the same way, when a woman says something like, I'm going to start this, the logical mind of the man says that whether it's really possible, will you be able to really do it? What if it causes any health issues to you? What if you fail in it? All of these logical questions come. So women operates from an emotional brain, the right brain. Men operates from the logical brain. So that is where the clash is. But once the woman trusts herself and start taking action for herself, and she sees the result for sure. When a woman intuitively trusts the process, and when she start doing, definitely she will see the result. And once the women show 1% of result, you see that the entire family is supporting her. So the first step has to be taken confidently, boldly by you. Otherwise, you are only going to lose everything. Nobody is going to trust you. If you're thinking that your husband, even how much ever understanding they are, you don't wait for others' approval. If you feel you're very confident about doing something, try it, do it, get the result. Everybody else will be saying, nobody will say no to you. And you have to first trust yourself. You not trusting yourself also indicates other people not to trust yourself. Only when you trust yourself, everybody else will trust you. If you yourself is feeling very doubtful and confused, of course, that is what the signal that you are sending them. Don't trust me, be confused about my decisions. That is what we are also sending, right? You be confident, you create that self belief in yourself, automatically everything will happen. At least in the last stage, they'll say, do whatever you feel like. Just like my husband told me, it's your money anyway. You do whatever you do like. Yeah, you do whatever you feel like. Let's see. If you're losing it, also be okay with it. Like that only he said.
This is something which very confidently mothers have to start respecting themselves, start respecting their beliefs, values, and the decisions that they make. They must confidently tell. This is a very big awareness to all the mothers. So, if at all a mother wants to start something very small today, even if she doesn't have any prior awareness or confidence, how do you think she can start? Or how do you think a parent can start?
With bonding with their child or what?
In terms of exploring the child's fullest potential, now that they know that the child is a born genius and they want to start something small today.
So I would say, with an open mind, every day spend some 5 minutes with your child, not just physically present, but also all your senses open, not just the physical senses, but your intuitive senses also. You start to observe the 5 minutes, no distraction, no phones, no thoughts. Okay. Even though sometimes we don't have the phones and everything, but still our mind will be wandering somewhere. No. So all of those things, control it and bring it to your current presence and awareness at that moment. Just 5 minutes, let the child play with you where there is no other distraction. You can just even say that whatever you ask me to play, I will also play with you. Become that child when you are with your child. Become that person, become that child. Don't be that mother. Don't get into the figure of, I am your parent. Get down to the child level. Become the child during that 5 minutes. You will discover lot more about you will discover so much more about your child. I think that is the best thing to start with. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. And you have to put that effort in seeing it. For that, you have to, be very present, not just physically, but also all your thoughts, everything.
Perfect. So let's consider even the pregnant mothers. So what's that one belief that you wish every mother carried in her heart, right from the first day of motherhood, right from the time they get to know that I've conceived? What do you think should be that one wish?
So one wish is like, the child has chosen them for a reason. right? The soul has chosen that particular person to be their guide. So the soul is just wandering anywhere. But that particular soul has come to you, to choosing you to be their guide for their life. That is something that we have to be very grateful for, first of all. That gratitude feeling for that soul for choosing you. When you keep that in your mind as a first thing, I'm sure that everything else is going to follow. Because, right, when you have that gratitude,
I have
when you
no
have that
words.
gratitude for the soul for choosing you to be their mother, I think there is no other feeling is bigger than that gratitude. So when you have that gratitude, everything else is going to come together, everything is going to fall in place because you're so grateful for that soul for choosing you to be their guide. So there is no way you can do anything wrong to them. So whatever actions that comes from your mind, your body, your everything is going to be for the best for the child. So whether it's a pregnant mother or a mother who already have a child, I think this one perspective is going to bring out all the things that is there for the that is good for the child, for the mother, for the world, everything.
Very nice, very nice. So with this, I would also want to ask you how do they follow your work and how do they seek guidance? What is that first step that they can take with you?
So basically, Instagram is always there where they can find all the educational content and also connect with me. And also, I have a free WhatsApp community as well, where I give them some. They will be the first one to know what are all the things I post. And also, I used to post some tips and tricks, which is dedicated only for that WhatsApp community for choosing to be there. Apart from the just this social media, they also be a part of that social media. So I give some additional content there also. So that those two platforms I give free content. And also we have an amazing parenting community called as the Holistic Parenting Universe. And Holistic Parenting Universe is the finest place, the top 1% parents, like Vidya also being a part of that. So top 1% of the people, they think that something needs to change, something I have to do, I have this capacity to do. So that kind of parents is what being in one space, growing together, collaboratively working with each other and all that. So they are all there. So you can join the Holistic Parenting Universe. For that, I conduct a free webinar. Probably we can give them a link to join the free webinar. Yes, so they can join the free webinar. And of course, I said, if you think that you cannot make decisions on your own, bring your husband, in-laws, mothers, whoever wants to attend, they all can come together and attend it, because just attending the free webinar is also going to help you see what is your child's potential is, what is your child's capable of, especially during the 0 to 6 years. Whatever I have learned from child psychology, which fascinated me, that I show you right now. And also, as I told you before, the prevention is always better than cure. Instead of going and letting the problem come and then taking action, let's all be little bit more aware and conscious about doing the path right, laying the path right for our kids, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. A child growing is not something that you can redo again. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, literally. So yeah, they can attend the free webinar to see if there is something that they are connecting with. And if they feel that this is something I connect with, we welcome only the action takers, because knowledge, that's it. If you want only knowledge, go to my YouTube, lot of free content, Instagram, lot of free content. But if you want to take action and see results, HBU community is there.
Think you conduct the webinar, is it?
Webinar happens every alternative days also, weekly ones also. So once they're part of the WhatsApp community, we will be giving them the link to register and join the webinar. So we have made it in such a way that busy parents can attend from any time easily. Once in a while, I'll do a live session. So right now, I'm not sure when this video is going to come up, so I cannot say a particular date, but all the details will be posted in our WhatsApp group. So parents can easily come and watch it.
So it's just about raising a child. It's rising of a parent too. And that is what we've learned today. And I hope today's conversation helps every parent to see their child's potential is waiting. Not for the perfect school, not for a perfect course, but for the parents' presence, their efforts, their energy, and their time. Thank you so much, Dr. Nalini Shankar. It was a wonderful conversation that we have had so far, and looking forward to be associated with you for our future events as well. And thank you so much for taking that time out and giving us such valuable information. And I'm sure all the parents would resonate the same with what I'm saying. So I request all the parents to please comment and like video if you've truly learned something today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vidya, for having me. It was very nice talking and sharing my thought process. And I hope that at least one or two things would have inspired someone. And if the people who are watching the video, if you find at least one key takeaway that you can take from this video, please do share in the comments. And we'd
Yes,
love to
yes.
see what is that one action that you would like to take. Because again, I don't believe in just learning, just hearing, just having the knowledge, but what is that one thing we can get inspired from, and what is that we can put into action? That is what more important. So I really want to see what is that one thing you would like to take up and start doing. Just share it in the comments. We'd love to read. Thank you so much, Vidya, for having me. All the very best for this podcast to be more successful with lot of expert guides who come and guide our lovely parents and children in the right way. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching all.